Good afternoon. It is Saturday, the 1st of February. This is the Rector's report for St. John's Church in Farmington. The meeting, of course, is tomorrow, but this is the full Rector's report, which I think will be a little longer than what I'll give you tomorrow um, at the live annual meeting, just because you'll be able to listen at your leisure, not be looking to get home for lunch. So we'll begin God's peace be with you. Um, I want to start by saying that 2024 was a year of some disruptions. Obviously, our major construction project in the parish hall was completed finally in the springtime, and we got back into the building, and we've been growing into it and figuring out how to utilize it the best way we can. That entire project, in case you missed the funding for it, um, there were some extraordinary gifts given to memorial funds that were used to seed that project, but we did borrow money for it to the tune of about $190,000, but we borrowed it from the diocese, and we borrowed it at an interest rate that's 1% below the prime rate. For those of you who keep track of such things, that's a pretty good deal. And we will make that payment, which we just made 2 weeks ago, in January each year until it's paid off. A full report is available in print. Art Merrick, who sort of project managed that whole thing for us, has a complete printed report that came out a few months ago, and you can review it. Any gifts that are given to the building fund in between our annual payments will be used to just take the total off the principal each year. The same way you might if you were buying a car and added $50 after your payment, makes a big deal at the end of the loan. So that's the plan. And we have engaged that plan and it's going. Note on our church budget, which again you will see in a more complete form in the meeting, and that is it is basically flat in expenditures, within just a couple of percent when it comes to needed income and our expected expenditures. So some things have shifted so that it has stayed actually flat this year, and that includes while working in things that must get more expensive, like insurance and planned increases in utilities and other things as well. But again, that'll be in more detail available for you in your email today and at the meeting tomorrow. Now, as far as my work as rector goes, of course, my greatest joy, and some of you probably picked this up, my greatest joy is actually the liturgical life of the church. I'm having fun folding some of our new young people into being acolytes. We've recently finished up our classes for relicensing our lectors, and in February we'll relicense our Eucharistic ministers. So that part of the liturgical sacramental life of the church goes on and grows a bit, and you'll probably see a few more subtle little fun changes, I think, to enhance the beauty of the liturgy in the coming months. I also spend a great deal of my time in um, two things which I think really cross over into one another, and that is uh, Christian education and spiritual formation. Now, I don't have for spiritual formation. Now, I don't have anyone, particularly who comes to me regularly for regular spiritual formation. But as your priest, I believe it's my job to do group spiritual formation. The sermons are part of that. They're not supposed to be just raw information and data about the Bible. They're not supposed to be raw theology and big words. They're supposed to be formative of the people of God, as are all the classes that I teach. Um, uh, when I've had the chance during that hour between the two services and our kids are there, I'm taking that time to train them in the liturgy as acolytes. Where do we stand? Why do we stand there? How do you carry this? And what does it mean? Um, during Advent this last year, with Sarah's help to a great extent. We looked into the history, the Jesse tree, as it were, the lineage of Jesus, and we did some hands-on stuff to help us remember that story. And a few of you have shown me pictures of even more work you've done to decorate that little triptych that we made, which should become a place of prayer. The Saturday morning Bible study has continued strong. I think we're a little low today in numbers, but the last 2 weeks we have 12 or 13 people. We've been focusing for this last year in the epistles, the letters, finishing up First John right now, and we're getting ready to shift gears into a little book that I've shared with everyone called 52 Hebrew Words Every Christian Should Know. And so, in the next few weeks, that will be we'll shift into that study on Saturday mornings. And I know some of you who don't even come on Saturday mornings who decided to get the book and sort of learn along with us there. The iconography class that meets on Wednesday. There are now 7 of us who regularly meet. And it's not just arts and crafts. We talk of the theology of the saints and the theology of what makes an icon possible and what makes me into an icon of Jesus. And we have a small group that meets at the rectory on Sunday evenings. We've been studying some rather hard things together. I won't go into the list there, but they're more academic books, a bit of heavier theology that some people feel called to dig into. Um, Enjoying that very, very much. I also this year taught a class through the Dominican Order. The text for that book was The Spirituality of St. John, in which we looked at the Gospel, the 3 epistles, and the book of the Revelation as a foundation for spirituality and how John sees the spiritual life as expressed in all those books. Um, Another aspect of my work that I do for you, which is primarily confidential, is the individual pastoral work. I can't possibly, obviously, go into detail about that. Some of you are direct recipients of that on the individual or family level. Um, that is, depending on the day, the week, the season, sometimes absorbs a huge amount of time and energy, certainly my emotional energy when someone is in turmoil. Um, However, periodically, I get to have those joyful ones where someone comes with a pastoral question, which springs not out of their trouble, but out of their striving for God. And in those moments, I very much enjoy doing the exploration together with someone who's reaching and grasping for God and sort of aiming them in a direction. Again, that's hard to quantify. Um, it's very difficult to it's even very difficult to judge in a qualitative level because it's so deeply personal, and the rate at which any given person grasps after God or the effectiveness of that grasping, so much of that depends on God's will and the interaction between that person's heart and the Lord. That again, it's hard to quantify it and it's hard to qualify it, but it does certainly go on. Um, uh, let's see, looking at my notes. Um, One of the largest things that you as a congregation and I do as a partnership that isn't liturgy or education is the outreach. Now, the outreach committee does its work. We're very happy for that, and there's a printed report for you in that vein. But in addition to the work of the outreach committee, and the good number of you that I know personally do outreach things otherwise, volunteering with other um, other ministries, other agencies, what have you, is the little bags. It doesn't include a lot of people, but some of you join us now and then, Diddle and I, meet down at the excuse me, at the park at the foot of Orchard Avenue, down by the brewery of all places, across the street, and we say a shortened form of evening prayer, and we bring the little bags. If you remember, we sort of named them both for their size and after Jack Little and Patty, who sort of spearheaded this thing some years ago. I usually carry 6 of them. We hand them out to people who are on the street if they're there. If they're not, we find a little secure location. And it seems that the people who need them know where they are because they're always gone the next morning. Sometimes we've had some of you from the congregation join us for that periodically, which is a good thing. You're more than welcome to be there. And now and then we get joined by folks off the street or from the community that are in hard times that sit and pray with us. And in those cases, often evening prayer ends up being not an 8-minute thing, but a 30-minute thing because we their commentary on our prayers and their needs all weave into this very flexible but beautiful thing. Turning the church inside out, as it were, and letting go of our Episcopalian requirements that everything be in lockstep because it just doesn't go that way. These folks to join us, and it really is a wonderful thing. The other big partnership that we have between you and me is your generosity funneled through my work in distributing discretionary funds, which helps so much with the electric bills and the rent and other such things that people need in nuts and bolts sorts of ways to keep their households going. Um, we can get a detailed report, print that for you. We didn't include it because everybody doesn't necessarily want it, but we can print it. And the report this year came in that you gave and I distributed just over $24,000. This year came in that you gave and I distributed just over $24,000 through that account this year, realizing that while our budget is close to $270,000, and that was covered, you gave that 24,000 over and above those operating expenses. Um, and again, the budget breakdown can be looked at in detail if you have questions at the annual meeting. But yeah, that's close to 8% of our total income goes right out the door in discretionary spending for the needy. Some years ago, the diocese sort of set a target that 10% of your income go out the door, and just through the discretionary fund. We're about at 8%. That doesn't count the value of all the food and the clothing and the blankets and the money that the outreach committee spends through the year, which I believe the budget is $5,000. So that brings us close to the $30,000 mark, if not significantly over it, with the value of things, of gifts in kind that are given, food and clothing, and all of that. um, so that's what I've outlined for you is the overwhelming bulk of my energy. If you think about those things, preparation for liturgy, preparation for sermons, classes of the various kinds, which, as you know, it hurts my feelings horribly that I have to read a lot to prepare. So that's a lot of my time. And then the teaching of the classes, pastoral interactions, which are sometimes heavy on the schedule, sometimes lighter. Um, the administration of that out discretionary fund probably comes up to about 3 to 4 hours of my time each week because of the people that come in and sit down and have to talk to me about their situation. Um, so that's where the bulk of my energy goes. We've also had another big transition this year, and we want to thank Jack for his long service, and he decided to step down from his responsibilities as organist and parish administrator. We brought on Erin Brooks. Many of you have met her as she came in to the parish in October to see to the office work. She's getting up to speed. She's ironing out wrinkles. She's creating new reports. She just updated the website this week, changed the format of it a little bit, made a few things easier to find. Um, those things are happening. Some of it, obviously, with somebody new, there are obviously some little hiccups and bumps here and there, but we're getting them worked out, and we're glad she's with us. So we're still in that transition. She's been with us for about 4 months now, so that rolls on. And then finally, I wanted to just give you a little bit about what's sort of about to happen. We're about to change seasons. We're just a few weeks away from Lent. Christian education on Sunday mornings, special program, multi-generation, all the Finnish seasons. We're just a few weeks away from Lent. Christian education on Sunday mornings, special program, multi-generation, all the family together in the room like we did in Advent. We're going to focus on the lives of the saints. So look forward to that. We're going to, as we couldn't last year because of construction, we're going to go back to soup and bread like we did in previous years. Wednesday evenings, sign up sheet is there. We want those good homemade soups, good hearty stuff, and that good heavy bread. Make us feel very medieval monk-like as we study together. And so between the Sunday the Sunday sermons and the Wednesday nights are going to be this tied together theme for the entire season of Lent, which is going to be based on a modern parable. Now, it's not a parable of Jesus; it's a parable written by someone else, but it's called the parable of the river. And I will share that parable with you on the first Sunday of Lent, and then both the Sunday morning sermons and the Wednesday evening classes will be an unpacking of that entire parable in the spiritual life. So those things are coming up in the parish. In addition to that, the bishop has asked me, was going to start in February. Some of you heard we're pushing it back to June. Um, there are some lay people in the diocese because of the particular situation in their congregations and a lack of local clergy for one reason or another, not my business, that the bishop wants these lay people trained as preachers. He has asked me to spearhead that, so I will be the chief instructor or chief formator um, of some lay people stepping into the role of preaching. Susan, as a Dominican sister of mine as well, and one who helped create the curriculum, will help me out. And our Dominican brother, James Dennis, who is a lay preacher in the Diocese of Texas, will be coming over from San Antonio to help. And the three of us together will teach that course it'll start in June and it'll run through October for the bishop to license lay preachers. Also in the fall, if everything goes as planned, the bishop has asked me to begin teaching one of the theology courses in the Iona program, which is the theology course in those who are being trained to be priests in our diocese. So those things are a few months out, but they're looming large in my mind. This really the first time that I've been asked to teach others who are being formed for ministry as ordained ministers. This is new territory for me. So that's on the horizon. So those are the things that are going on in the congregation. We have new families. We have new people stretching into some roles. Of course, at our meeting today, we're electing new people to the vestry. Some of which never served on a vestry before, stretching into new roles. That is something, obviously, for God's reasons. Sometimes He calls people to something, and then He calls them to step back from that. But we'll all be going through that in some form or other in the coming year. So I encourage you to stay connected with the congregation. People ask me all the time, what about being a Christian and not part of a church? Okay, that's fine. You can believe in Jesus and not be part of a church. But I think there's a really big hole in the formation of a Christian's heart when they are not regularly involved in, invested in, and accountable to a living, breathing, writhing, wrestling body of Christian that's trying to move forward together. It's actually rather easy to be an independent Christian because you don't have to deal with other people. And I mean, let's face it, people are a lot of trouble, but people are also sanctifying. Um, so I encourage you as we move forward, uh, in order to be formed by the living, breathing body of Christ, invest yourself further in the congregation, and we'll grow together. Thank you all. It is a privilege to be your rector, and I will, of course, field questions and continue any of these conversations at any time. There is the Rector's Report 2024 submitted for you. Peace be with you.